We expect a full house, so hopefully others are just making their way to our event and will be shortly joining us. On your chairs, there is a folder, and it does contain some important information as it pertains to the agenda for today. But there's also a survey that we would encourage you to be completing as the day activities go on so that it doesn't feel so big. But it is a couple of pages and it is associated with our funder of the event. So it's going to be important that we fill it out and be able to FedEx it to them to show that their money was well spent by allowing us to come together and have this event together. So good morning, Dr. Jose Salazar, Director with Tarzana Treatment Centers, which is the organization that's putting on the event. And I really have the pleasure of welcoming you to this important gathering that focuses on raising mental health awareness, but also the importance of well-being and social connectiveness. As you can imagine, these types of gatherings, particularly post-pandemic, don't simply happen. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that we were able to register, that we knew the directions, that we knew where Tia Chuchas was, that we knew how to Google it so we could be here. And so I think it's appropriate that we thank Mr. Mabuba Rahman and his training team that's in the back for allowing us to come together and get here safely and on time and ready to learn about mental health awareness. So let's give them a brief hand, please. Thank you guys for putting all this together in such a short amount of time. I also want to thank our invited guests and keynote speakers, Dr. Patty Ramirez and Mr. Obed Silva, which we're expecting will be here shortly. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to share this space with us. You'll also later on hear from our esteemed panelists, Flor, which I think some of them are already here, Flor, Jacqueline, Rosanna, and our excellent moderator, Daryl Miranda, who's sitting over here. And then to bring it all home, we're gonna have the amazing Miss Gloria Sistos. She's gonna be able to do some closing remarks towards the end of the day. You may have heard Dr. Vivek Murthy. He's our U.S. Surgeon General, so essentially the doctor of our nation. He declared a new public health epidemic in America, and that epidemic is loneliness. His report to the nation outlined how lack of social connection negatively impacts several medical conditions and can increase the onset of several mental health conditions such as dementia, depression, stress, and anxiety. How social isolation can actually increase premature death and mortality by upwards of 30%. So it appears that as we become a wealthier, more prosperous, and electronically connected nation, we are conversely becoming a more socially isolated and lonely nation in the process. Our social engagement with friends and loved ones has actually been in decline since 2003. While back in 2003, most of us reported spending at least 60 minutes of a meaningful engagement with a friend or family member a day, we are now just down to 20 minutes since 2003. That's a full two-thirds decline. This also means that as a whole, less of us are participating and being active in our community, volunteering, helping in social service organizations, getting involved with our faith and spiritual-based organizations, or joining recreational and team sports in our local community. Too many of us are exchanging our quality and rich in-person connections with our social media connections and our hours of time on things like these type of devices. The importance of having meaningful social connections is not something new, right? We've known about this. Back in 1978, psychologist Dr. Bruce Alexander conducted his famous rat park experiment. Dr. Alexander was troubled by the results of a classic experiment that put rats in cages and gave them two options: water without drugs and water with drugs. And what that experiment discovered is that the rats would press on the lever with the water with drugs to the point of exhaustion and to the point of death. But what troubled him about that experiment is that he noticed that the rats were put in these cages and the cages were empty. It was just them and these two options. So he decided to conduct his own experiment called Rat Park, in which he put a whole bunch of rats, not just one, but multiple rats with their friends and other rats that they had associated with in the past. There was tons of toys and balls that the rats could push around. There was all the food that they could have or eat. And there was all kinds of sex going on in that rat park. And of course, there was the water with drugs and there was the water without drugs. And the rats never picked the water with drugs. And they certainly never picked it to the point of exhaustion or to the point of death. So Dr. Alexander back in 1978 was already having access to information that indicated that when we have social connections, in this case, the rats' social connections, it acted as a protective factor against something like consumption of alcohol and drugs and potentially death and mortality. The point of this being that we have to take it upon ourselves to intentionally try to create these types of connections. So hopefully you're doing part of that today by being here today. And so I encourage you in our breaks and our interactions throughout the day, make it a point to connect with someone. Make it a point to make eye contact, ask them a little bit about themselves, exchange business cards the way that we did earlier in that room. Do that today, at least with 4 or 5 individuals that find themselves in this meeting today. And I hope that during or after this meeting, you will immediately call a friend or a loved one with whom you haven't spoken the last 30 days and just ask them, how are you doing? What are you doing? How have you been? I hope that this weekend you make it a point to volunteer at your local community organization or attend your local religious spiritual center. I hope that at least 4 times this month you put your phone away so that you can be more fully present with someone who is speaking with you and trying to let you know something important about their life, about something that happened to them today, yesterday, in the near past. I hope you hang on their every word and truly actively listen to what they're saying and expressing. I hope you reach out to a neighbor, a friend, or a loved one and ask them if you could help them do some simple chore around their house or their yard. And if someone offers any of these things to you or mentions them, I hope that you take them up on it and allow yourself to be more socially connected, as it could potentially be essentially a matter of life and death. So thank you for listening to me this morning. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And at this time, I'd like to call Dr. Patty Ramirez up to the stage. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Speaking of putting our phones away, I want to invite my comadre and hermana Berlin as well, who will be co-facilitating with me this beautiful plática. You may have impromptu experts like Diego, who is here to talk about the youth experience. So if you do, just know that there's a lot of wisdom here in the space, and we definitely want to lean into that. So we have a presentation for you. Perfect. So the title of our plática is called Healing Our Seed. by returning to our roots. And so we want to really talk about La Cultura Cura, which is a public health pedagogy that says that we as communities, as individuals, have culture, have wisdom, have teachings that can guide us and support our well-being. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about what we mean by that. But first and foremost, thank you all for the invitation. It's always good to be here at the Achuchas and to be here in community with you all. We're going to go ahead and give you a grounded introduction. So I am the founder of Colibri. We can go to the next slide. And so at Colibri, although you might notice some funky spelling, Colibri just means colibri in Spanish, which is hummingbird. And so for us, the hummingbird in my culture can represent messages from ancestors. It can represent ancestors themselves. In other traditions, the colibri signifies the warrior that fell at battle. And so I like to think that we as social justice leaders, as social workers, as educators, as family members, as leaders in our community, that we too can fall at battle, fighting for equity, combating systemic oppression, combating interpersonal and systemic violence. And so Colibri was made to uplift and sustain advocates and leaders that are on the ground doing the work. And we specifically focus on healing-centered leadership development. So we're excited to share a little bit about what that means, but we'll go on to the next slide. So I'm not gonna read this. It's a little bit too much. But what I do wanna say is that I am a sister, I am a daughter, I am a comadre, I have godchildren, I have a spiritual baby. I am someone that's here because I care about healing, about wellness, about well-being, and I care about our youth and our future generation. So I'm excited to come here and speak from that perspective. And I'm going to go ahead and pass on the palabra to Belen.
Yeah, go look for the Spinosaurus. Hi, good morning, good evening. I'm really honored just to be here. You can go to the next slide. And I am also not going to read all that. But I am a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a community member. I've been practicing birth work since he was born. And so I'm practicing to become a birth doula and a death doula as well, because motherhood has introduced me to that duality that we walk with in a good way. And so being here this morning, before we start this plática that's so full of medicine, I would love to offer land acknowledgement and also a prayer to open up the space for this beautiful healing work that is going to happen today. So the land acknowledgement that we'd like to do, we'd like to honor the original caretakers of these lands, the Chumash, Tongva, Gabrielino, Fernandeño, and Tatavian people that took care of the lands that we walk on now. I currently live in El Monte. I know that Doctora Patti lives also right next door to me. And it's an honor to be here, to be able to talk about this that has brought so much medicine for me in my postpartum, and also to be able to raise this little semilla in a good way. He loves dinosaurs, so he knows to honor the ancestors. And right now, mommy's gonna do a prayer, okay? Okay, here we go. If you'd like to join me to stand up to face each direction, you can. You don't have to, but we just Googled it, and the east is gonna be on that corner, west, north, and south. So I'm gonna be facing the east, and we're gonna give thanks to the east. Ready? Cantemos con alegría que al cielo le está gustando. Cantemos con alegría que al cielo le está gustando. Y a Tlahuizlampa las gracias
Tlasokamati Tlahuiztlampa, the direction of the east, calling in the divine masculine in all of us, helping us learn how to start these new beginnings in a good way, how to walk this path with wisdom, calling in the energy of Quetzalcoatl, calling in this wisdom, this ancestral wisdom that lives within us all, so that we may remember the good path and the good way of walking it, so that we may take the appropriate actions to create a better future for tomorrow. Ometeo, if you'd like to turn to your left, we're gonna face the west. Tlasokamati, the direction of the west. Thank you to our grandmothers, our mothers, womb carriers, the ones that are givers of life, the ones that have helped continue this life forward. We give thanks to this direction that allows the sun to set and allows the moon to shine in all her brightness in the darkness, reminding us that we are the light in the dark, reminding us that we are connected to our ancestors, reminding us of the power that we have of creation. Thank you, abuelas, thank you, nanas, madres, sisters, those who have mothered and taught us unconditional love. Tlasokamati Cihuatlampa. If you'd like to turn to your left, we're going to turn to the north. The direction of the north. We give thanks to the great mountain where our ancestors rest. We give thanks to those that have gone before us that now lay resting, watching over us, guiding us and protecting us. Gracias ancestros, gracias abuelitas y abuelitos. Thank you to all the ancestors that walk with us in a good way, that are healers and bringers of light. We call on you to be here with us, doing this healing work, because this healing work goes back 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. We thank you for the DNA in all of us, the resilience, the medicine that lies with us, and we are honored today here to be able to do this healing, not just for ourselves, but for you as well. Ometeo. Turning to your left, we go to the south. The direction of the south, the direction of the future generations, the direction of the youth. We call on Huitzilopochtli, the energy of the warrior. May we all be warriors to fight for the children and the future generations, and also the children within us all. May we remember what we need to heal and carry those wounds forward to be able to heal them and move in a good way, so that we may be better adults for the future generations coming forward at this time. May we remember their wisdom, that they carry within themselves wisdom from lifetimes and generations past. We ask forgiveness to the youth for not creating this world to be the perfect world right now, but know that we are working our way towards that. We promise the youth a better future for them and for ourselves, calling forth our child energy so that we may sit here in wonder and curiosity and take in new ideas with an open heart. Ometeo. I invite you to make a circle to your left. This is the direction that the universe turns. And wherever you're standing, facing forward, you can look up to the sky. Cantemos con alegría que al cielo le está gustando. Cantemos con alegría que al cielo le está gustando. Y a lo Meyocan las gracias le estamos dando. Y a lo Meyocan las gracias le estamos dando. Las gracias le estamos dando. Tlazocamati to the Star Nation, the ones above, the sun, the moon, the stars. Thank you for guiding us. Thank you for bringing in to the sun. Thank you for bringing in the life that you give us every day. To the moon, thank you for helping us connect to your cycles and your faces. To the stars, to our brothers and sisters, thank you for being a constant reminder of how, even though we don't see some things, they are there. At night, we see you come out, and we're so grateful for your guidance, your protection, and the hope that you bring for us every day. Thank you for guiding our seasons. Thank you for guiding our ancestors. May we connect to the Star Nation in order to find our path. Ometeo. Last one, I promise. You can be wherever you're at. I'm going to touch the earth. Cantemos con alegría que al cielo le está gustando. Cantemos con alegría que al cielo le está gustando. Y a Tonancintlali las gracias le estamos dando. Y a Tonancintlali las gracias le estamos dando. Las gracias le estamos dando. Yes, Tlazocamati, Pachamamita, Tonantzin, Mother Earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sustaining our life every day. Thank you for your soils, your fertile ground that gives us food, that gives us the vitamins and minerals that we need. Thank you for giving us all the 4 elements within us and around us that sustain our life. We are so grateful for you. We are so honored to be connected and be a part of you, of this organism and ecosystem that you so beautifully have arranged and provided for us. We ask for forgiveness in all of the ways that we've let you down, and promise moving forward to walk with you with grace, to walk with you with honor, and to walk with you with respect, honoring our own bodies the same way that we honor yours. May we learn from you, may we heal with you, and may we remember that we are all connected in this mycelium network of healers, of workers, of brothers and sisters. May we remember that we are all one. Tlazocamati, Ometeo. In this way, I was taught before we start any type of work to ask for permission from the land that we're standing on to do this work, because whatever we're going to release is going to be onto the earth, and also to ask and call in our guides and the directions. So I wanted to share that with you because today's topic is bringing back that healing to the semillas and connecting. We have a kokoshkomi here that will be burning the whole time that we're talking, and if you see me coming up here, it's just to add a little bit of medicine, especially when the topics get heavy and emotional. This medicine just helps us stay grounded and remember why we're doing this work. You can go to the next slide. So to start off, we have our conocimiento. This helps us get to know each other a little better.
I'll share a little bit about, and I'll show you an example of how this will look, and then you all will be able to do it with each other. So my name is Belén Guadalupe Velázquez Flores. My pronouns are she, her, hers, they, them. The organization that I'm here with is Colibri. The title that I currently have is the Public Health Fellow working with AmeriCorps. I am living right now in El Monte. I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. And what am I curious about for this workshop? I am curious about learning how to better well manage my own mental health, to be a better parent at this moment, post-pandemic. So here are some sentences that may stem to get you started. You may say to the person, I'm curious about, I hope to deepen my understanding about, or I look forward to. If we were a smaller circle, we would just all gather up in a circle and introduce each other to ourselves. But because we are a bigger circle, I invite you to present yourself with the people next to you. The man that was talking right before me, he said introduce yourselves to 5 people. But if you want to do like a group of 3, you're sitting here with a group of 2, maybe you 3 right there, and like in that way, the most easiest way to organize yourselves, like júntense con el grupito que esté al lado de ustedes, and we're gonna introduce ourselves to the people around us to make sure we're feeling like we're creating a safe space, that we're gonna be able to talk about these hard topics with the people around us. Do you want to add anything to that, Doctora Pati?
I know some of you know each other, so we invite you to challenge yourself and maybe mingle with other folks that you don't know. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But I think 10 minutes should be fine. So we'll do a mic to come back to Senate. Thank you all.
10 minutes of just introducing yourselves. Thank you for helping with the tech.
Wait till you hear the cursor.
call them back.
Okay, start wrapping up your sentences, calling you back.
Cantemos con alegría que al cielo le está gustando. Cantemos con alegría que al cielo le está gustando. Y a nuestro yo lo pusimos, las gracias le estamos dando. Y a nuestro yo lo pusimos, las gracias le estamos dando. Las gracias le estamos dando. Giving thanks to our heart center. We opened up with this directions, and the last direction is our heart. So now that we feel a little bit more full in our hearts, you've met some new people, maybe connected with old faces. We are moving forward. You can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay, so before we talk about maybe the impact of mental health in our communities, we kind of wanted to just give you a framing of what it might look like to have quote unquote like optimal mental health and well-being. And so someone here, you can see it here on the presentation, someone whose mental health and state of well-being is somewhat in harmony might be someone who can realize their own abilities, right? They're typically someone who can cope with normal stressors in life. It doesn't mean that they don't get angry. It doesn't mean that they don't lose their shit. It just means that they know how to cope, right? They have some mechanisms that are supportive. Someone who has a balanced state of well-being and mental health can be someone who can work productively and fruitfully, whatever that means for them. And then lastly, someone whose state of well-being and mental health is balanced and in harmony can contribute to their community in meaningful ways. And so we wanted to give you that framing because when we're talking about folks with mental health or substance use challenges, we're talking about folks that are struggling to do some of these things, right? Now, I just want to pose the question for you all. What does it look like for your child, for youth, or even for yourself to thrive? What does that mean? What does that sound like, feel like in your mind, body, hearts, and spirits? Anyone want to share? For me, it's like laughter and just sounds of a lot of people in their joy, laughing crazy without abandon. Maybe some, what are they called when people laugh so hard?
Carcajadas. I don't even know how to say that.
They might snort by accident. Like it's one of those like, almost like fart because it's so funny, right? Like that to me is thriving. Yes. It's a guttural laugh. You feel it. Anyone else? Let's paint that picture. What can it feel like, sound like to thrive?
I can share for myself. It feels like for me, for him to thrive, is that I know that he's feeling completely safe to be his full authentic self. And know that he's going to be unconditionally loved by me no matter what. Being born, he was born March 6, 2020, and he was born at the beginning of the pandemic. It's been a rough journey for both of us to learn how to feel safe and secure. And it's something that we're both continuously working on. So
That's my share. Does anyone else want to raise their hand and share? If you have children or your own self, your own inner child, what feelings come up for you when you think of thriving? So that's beyond being okay, yes?
I think it would be for me to really know that I'm giving back, to know that maybe whatever I'm doing for somebody else or for groups or whatever is really making an impact, not just on their lives, but beyond.
Yes.
So really just that feeling of giving back.
I love that. And always from an overflowing cup.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, as a parent, to see my children feeling well is to be in peace with themselves, to feel complete, to feel satisfied.
Phil, thank you. We appreciate all of the feedback and all of the contributions as this is more powerful as it becomes more interactive. So thank you.
We have space for like one more share. Anyone that's just coming out of your heart, what might it look like, sound like, feel like?
What might you need? Yes?
I would say building connections, having that sense of community is what I feel brings that sense of being able to thrive, is being able to build those connections and creating a network of individuals.
I love that. I just read a quote that said something like, the absence of suffering is connection. So I love that. We were just in a ceremony this weekend and my cup is overflowing because of the connections that we created with community. To know that you're not by yourself and you're not alone in whatever you're going through in your mind is very powerful. Thank you for that reminder.
Excited?
Mental health and well-being, I'd like to share some statistics with you. Approximately 1 in 5 youth in the United States will have a mental disorder that significantly impacts their life. 1 in 5 youth. A mental disorder is a diagnosable disorder that affects a person's thinking, emotional state, and behavior, disrupts the person's ability to work or attend school, carry out daily activities, and engage in satisfying relationships.
How's it landing with folks?
1 in 5. That means if we create a group of 5 people here, one person has already experienced a mental health challenge. That, for me, becomes very, very real. This month of May, we've been providing mental health workshops, training people to become mental health facilitators, first aid trainers, and the training for me was very emotional because it made me reflect on my own mental health and also the mental health of my family. In my maternal lineage, there's a lot of mental health diagnoses, and I've been vulnerable enough and shared with Pati, Doctora Pati, that this was a very tender, sensitive subject to even learn about, because growing up, when I was an 8th grader, my mom was diagnosed with a paranoid schizophrenia. So learning about this just really makes me reflect, but also creates a bigger sense of compassion for my mother, and also now for myself as a mother, because since his birth, it's been the biggest blessing of my life, and also postpartum depression was very, very real. And as a birth worker, I'm learning that postpartum, after you become a mom, is forever. It's not the first 6 months or los 40 días. It's just I'm like, is this ever gonna get easier? And then they're like, no, you're always worried. You're always thinking of your children. This is for the rest of your life, And so this, for me, is really real in the terms of I am that one person in that group that has to really be conscious of my mental health. Yes.
I am aware of this statistic, but I'm also aware of the statistic that Latinos and people of color is higher.
Oh yeah,
It's higher than 1 in 5.
definitely.
And also that's really sobering because probably each and every one of us, given the just
Thank you for bringing that to life. That is completely accurate. I think when you start thinking of like all of the structures that cause oppression and all of the layers of like, and we are people of color, it just adds more to the reality of this issue. Thank you for that reminder.
And so I love that you just said that. It's like you can come over here and co-present with us. There is 100% a connection between culture and health, right? It can impact the way that we feel about health, about well-being. It most definitely impacts our health choices. It can impact who we go to for support, who we don't go to for support. It can also impact our values about health and well-being, and ultimately our behaviors. And so, I think a lot about, that 1 in 5, and, our colleague is saying for Latinos, for other communities of color, it's even higher. In my community, or at least in my family, in my culture, and I want us to think about culture not just as a nationality, or, I want us to kind of think beyond that, right? Our culture can be our workplace community, it can be our family community, our zip code community, right? And so we're constantly at the intersection of different cultures kind of commingling with each other and really impacting the way that we feel about health and well-being. In my own family, first of all, we don't go to the doctor. Second of all, mental health does not exist. In fact, for many of my family members, mental health challenges were seen as personality traits. Oh, es berrinchuda. But little did we know that this person's going through depression, right? Or, oh, nomás son alcohólicos, you're just alcoholics. But little did we take into account that this person is carrying the trauma of being a soldier at the Salvadoran Civil War, right? And having to deal with all of these different, violence, intergenerational trauma, all of that impacts the way that it shows up, right? So how many here are social workers or by training? Okay, I see a few hands. There's 4 of us. So part of my master's, we had to do like a genogram where we had to map out our family and some of the patterns or disorders, health disorders that we knew about. And even as I continue that work, I'm noticing that several mothers did not grow up with their mothers. I'm noticing that there are infertility issues, which I also deal with, including miscarriages, which I experience. And then additionally, we have a lot of liver and kidney issues, where in Tradición, we also think about that as issues with rage. So folks who have alcoholism, who have kidney disease, we're talking about unresolved rage that might not even belong to us. It might be rage from colonization, right? It might be rage from migration and assimilation that was passed on to us. And so I just want us to really think about, the real impacts of culture, right? And that it's not just, there's something wrong with me, rather, hi, Papa. We are, beings that are carrying a lot of different stories and memories in our bodies, but we also carry hope and healing and medicine, right? So as we heal ourselves and our semillas, we can continue to remain rooted and grounded in culture, because our culture gives us a cosmovisión. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next slide. So when we talk about la cultura cura, what we're saying is that yes, our culture impacts our health, our choices, our values, maybe some of the traumas that we carry in our bodies. But it's also a philosophy that gives us medicine, traditions, practices, all of these things that can lead us to a healthy development, right? How many of you know of tea remedies. Or how many of you, if you're sick, the caldito de pollo's on deck, right? Or if you have, digestive issues, who here drinks mint tea? Or ginger, chamomile, right? These are passed down, right? These are cultural practices. And so we truly believe that, yes, the Western medical industrial complex can be at some point supportive for our health and well-being. But guess what? We also have healing modalities and practices that are specific to our culture. And so the invitation for us all here is to connect to those, right? To know that it's not one or the other, that we can really find ways to lean on all of the medicine that's accessible to us so that we can heal and so that we can continue to, bring about seeds like Dieguito here, who is leaning on us to support his development. Anything you want to add?
I think that's pretty complete. Yeah, just knowing that the earth oftentimes provides the medicine we need, and something that I've learned is that if you pay attention to the medicines that are growing around you, in your own garden, in your own neighborhood, the earth is telling you, it's communicating with you what medicines you might be needing. This spring, all over my yard, there was like endless dandelions everywhere. And when I started learning that I extremely would benefit from a liver detox, I found out dandelion root is perfect for liver detoxes. And like Dr. Patti was saying, a lot of times we create these diseases within us from emotions that we're not processing. And so I definitely relate and completely agree and understand with what you're saying. And I'm excited to do the work. Right now I currently have dandelion roots in my cajon in the dark for 6 weeks, sitting in vinegar, and once they're ready, I'm gonna start taking that. Because my biggest priority is to live the longest, healthiest life, to be able to be present for him. It's also one of my biggest fears. And so part of my mental health, when I start going into the fear, is to get in gratitude, to remember to stay in gratitude, and then to take action towards my health. If I'm fearful about, not being here long enough, then I start taking actions, making sure that I am here long enough, that I'm going on for that walk, that I'm taking 10 minutes out of my day to get some sunshine, to get out of the house, to get away from my cell phone, and to give him the same medicine I need, he needs. So I love this slide, and I love La Cultura Cura, because the returning to my roots has completely saved my life and my mental health. Thank you so much. We can go on to the next slide. So part of this, returning to my roots, I was so honored to be able to be trained as a Chinachli facilitator. So I'd love to share with you what Chinachli Rites of Passage is and means. The meaning of Chinachli is germinating seed. Chinachli is the moment in which the seed opens and begins, the transformation into a new form. This is the same process that we see when an infant becomes a child becomes an adolescent, and so forth. This process has to be nurtured so that the seed can develop successfully. A seed is powered by the full intent of the universe, designed by creation to explode with life. This is a quote from Carlos Aceves. I completely love this. When I heard what Chinachli was and meant, I completely related to it. Right now we're in the season still of spring, and this is very big medicine for me. So knowing in our Cosmovisión that we do have these cycles and these seasons connects me to my own mental health. Right now, I'm really feeling energized to create and to give birth. I'm feeling like that seed that's blossoming, because I've been, tucked away, hibernating all winter. And for me, it was a 3-year-long winter. It's been winter since the pandemic for me, because I was in postpartum, and it's just a lot of reflection and inner work. And right now, all of that wisdom that I was granted, I'm wanting to share it with the world. So this is a little example of some of the work that we can do and that we offer the community to be able to return to their culture. Chinachli Rites of Passage, these are actual pictures of círculos that we've had. The girls dancing are the daughters of Sarah Haskey, who was the creator and writer of the Chinachli Rites of Passage curriculum. Based on the individual's interconnectedness to the family, the community, and nation, Chinachli provides a dialectic process of reflection, concientización, creación, y acción, while supporting and building on the strengths of the individual. This is work that I'm honored to be able to provide and do. I'm looking forward to providing it more to my community. But it's a process, a 16-week process in which we sit with the youth, and at the end, they're able to complete their rite of passage. So in our culture, we have like las quinceañeras, you know, and it's the time when we bring out the young girls and introduce them to community, introducing them as young women. But I think this process is partly ceremony. And we teach them about our culture and the way that our culture teaches us that our body is our temple, how to honor ourselves, how to respect ourselves, something that I was not taught growing up. And being able to do this work heals my rebellious, angry teenage self that was left inside of me that I still carry, that comes up every full moon, you know, and needs some attention. And so I'm honored to be able to share this with everyone here. Do you have anything you'd like to add with Chinachli?
Yeah, and so if you're still wondering, like, why are they talking about this curriculum, this program? So this is a character development program for youth. We do offer it as part of Colibri as well. And we actually are also going to have a training in Los Angeles for anyone here who would like to become a facilitator. You would become trained to facilitate the Chinachli Círculos, and you would also become certified in mental health first aid for youth. So if you're interested, you know, please let us know. But we want to share these programs and offerings because many folks are like, okay, La Cultura Cura, it was beautiful how we opened up, you know, the space, but many of us don't have access to those teachings or to ceremony, or we may not know where to start. And so for you, now you know that there's a program here that can be supportive, that can teach youth that they are sacred, that they have teachings, that they are worthy of safe and supportive spaces, right? We can go to the next slide. And so with that said, you know, we just want to invite folks to consider that, you know, our culture is such a powerful aspect of ourselves. In a society where our culture has been diminished and constantly criminalized and made to seem as, you know, unhealthy, you know, I just want to remind us that our culture is a source of our strength. It can be a source of our healing, and it must be part of the process of healing ourselves and our youth. So with that, you know, we just want to invite you to, you know, take a breath if you've been holding your breath this whole time. But also just, you know, we want to make space for folks to maybe even share something that resonated with you, or even a question that you might have about what we've shared with you all. We have about 10 minutes for like comments, shares, questions. More plática.
I can share a little bit. Can you go to the slide previous to this one? Something that came up for me right here in this slide. I was introduced to Circle, like the medicine of women's circle is what I attend, in 2018 when I was like in my mid-30s. And the medicine of gathering in a circle is ancestral, it's ancient. And something that I was taught that brings so much medicine is that in a circle, you're all equal. And what I'm seeing in this picture, the youth, when we do circle up with Chinachli girls, we're all sitting in a circle. We are reminded that we are all equal, that we all have medicine to offer each other. And what happens when you sit in a circle is sometimes big Tezcatlipoca medicine. Tezcatlipoca is the energy of the north. It's obsidian. It's the dark obsidian crystal. And what I've reflected on in the past is when you're looking at people's faces, you're looking into their eyes. Everyone tiene esas bolitas negras, the iris of your eye. I feel like everyone carries that obsidian medicine in their eyes. And sometimes you're able to see yourself reflected in what someone else is sharing. Sometimes you get triggered by other people. And when you get triggered by other people, it's a reminder, it has nothing to do with them and what they need to be working on. It reminds you of the things that you still need to work on to not be triggered by something like that. So for me, sitting in circle has just been transformative in so many ways. And it has allowed me to build capacity for such deep sister healing. I met Doctora Patti in a círculo. I met Doctora Patti actually when she was being named and given her Mexica name. And we were all sitting in a circle. And I felt safe enough to be able to be myself and share myself and all the pain that I was carrying in that moment, because there's no hierarchy. There's no like, I'm gonna get in trouble if I say this. It's all like equals, and we're all joining together with the goal of healing. So I think, I just imagine, and sometimes there's a lot of grief when I think, I wish I would have been introduced to these healing modalities when I was 16 and feeling suicidal. When I was 17 and feeling alone and rebellious, and like my whole family was the only one dealing with mental health issues. And like Doctora Patti said earlier on, in our household, it was and it still is something that we don't openly share about very comfortably. Even most recently, like a couple years ago, my sister was engaged, and you know, I would notice like you don't bring him around very often, and then I realized like she carries a lot of shame to even have to explain like why maybe my mom's talking to herself. And it's something that like within my own family has brought up so many levels of like, we still need to work on this, we still need to heal this, because we're adults now, my siblings and I, and therapy is not something ever that was offered to us. And now I've seeked out my own way of healing, and that has been by connection, by finding community, and by finding those circles that are gonna remind me that I carry the medicine that I need for my own wounds, and that I have the power to become my own healer for myself, and then feel empowered to share that medicine and remind others that you carry that same power, that we all carry that resilience, and that our healing is connected to the generations past, and then moving forward now the generations forward. So this pictures right here just brings so much empowerment and healing for me. Galatzli is one of my coworkers, and she's there dancing with her sisters in the desert. For us, in our vision, a lot of our ceremonies are in nature. They are either you're going up to the mountain or you're going to the desert to sit all night and pray. And sometimes even my boyfriend's like, oh my God, that sounds like so much. But it's so much healing also. Like, cuando estamos en el medio del desierto, looking at the stars in the middle of the night, you know? It just hardly happens. And I'm just so grateful to have been literally like 5 years. In 2018, in May, was the first time ever that I sat in ceremony in a circle. It was the first time that I was introduced to Tatawari. That's the sacred fire. And you just like, when you're sitting in front of the fire, you give all of your pain. Whenever I'm in ceremony and I have to like, in ceremony is the only time that I feel safe enough to just cry it out and to release it and to give it to the elements, to give it to the earth, to give it to the fire.
And so I just wanted to share that with you because I was talking with Doctora Patti and I was like, oh my God, this is my anniversary this month of like being introduced. And in that first ceremony, they always invite you to have an intention. Like, what is your intention for this plática? What is your intention for this ceremony? In that specific ceremony was, I need to return to my roots. And I was so wounded because I am displaced. I am from Mexico, but if I go to Mexico, I'm not Mexican enough. And here in the United States, I'm not American enough. You know, no soy ni de aquí, ni de allá. And I felt so like, well, where are my roots? I don't even know. And literally coming out of the mountain, when I turned on my cell phone, all of these things started happening. Facebook messages. You can go to free Nahua classes at Tia Chuchas. You have, and I was like, what is Tia Chuchas? And that's when I found out about Tia Chuchas. You can go, you know, I was invited to Sweat Lodge. I come sweat here in the valley. And my teacher for water pouring, or the water pourer, is Trini, who founded this space. So I'm just so grateful to be here in this space. Just these four walls just carry so much medicine. Just being here with this art and with all of you is just a reminder that like our steps are being guided by Creator and our ancestors, and we're all here for a reason. And I'm so grateful to be here with all of you guys and ladies tonight. Thank you. This evening, not tonight.
Thank you so much. What a powerful testimonial.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any question or just what's feeling alive for you as you hear Belen's testimony, or as you allow some of the things that we talked about kind of just process through? And it's okay if you're someone who likes to think to talk. Sometimes I'm a talk to think type of gal. Oh, it's okay. Yes?
I apologize for being on my phone while you're talking, but you mentioned circles, and one of the most incredible experiences that I had was a trip to Patti Monumental National Park. And what it was is where annually, or I don't know how often, the like 13, 14 tribes would come together for council. They had kind of like hotel spaces where people stay, and they had a circle the size of a football field.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband was on one end and I was on the other, and we talked like this, and we didn't hear each other. So what I thought about when we were like how significant circles were. You know, this is an ancient and that they were so significant, they were so brilliant that they figured out how to work that space so that everyone would be heard in a circle.
I love that.
Everyone would sit. It's incredible. If anybody ever goes to the place. Look at it. It's just, again, it's like a connection to what possibly, because I don't have actual connections, you know. And in my family, it was the Mexican value was to exalt your Spanish ancestors. And then just kind of really
Forget.
not just forget, I mean,
Deny.
obliterate,
Yeah.
deny. And so, when I came of age, and again, you know, this isn't taught in schools,
Yeah.
this isn't, and the shame, that's what's really taught, or that's what we live, less than.
Yes.
So, this reconnecting, you know, is difficult because those stories were abolished. They weren't forbidden. And so, you know, that it's just part of, I know here, and yet because I met a lovely young man who told me that doesn't
exactly where we start, where we're at, and that's where you meet people where they're at too. And you just give grace. It's been a journey as well with me, and I'm hearing everything you're saying. I totally relate. Thank you for your testimony and your sharing.
Well, I think that's the end of our time. Again, thank you just for connecting with one another, for allowing us to connect with you. And we're going to stay for a bit. So when we get a moment, we're happy to chat with you all individually and share more. But thank you again, and thank you for your wisdom.